I've suffered with OCD for the past 5 or 6 years. Well, initially, I didn't really know what was going on. Obviously, that was quite frightening and scary. But then through the fact that I studied psychology at A level and became really, really interested in it, I realised that we actually studied OCD as part of my A level psychology course, and I realised that it was, a recognised illness and that there was help available for it out there. It did take me a while to want to get help because I'd lived with it for so long up to that point that I almost felt as though I couldn't really live without it to a certain extent. And then through being able to talk to my psychology teachers, who were just the most supportive people you could ever wish for, through being able to talk to them, I realised that I actually did want help. And that's when I initially asked if they could sort of set me up with someone to go and talk to about it. But that was sort of in the May, and it wasn't till the first week in October that I eventually started seeing someone. And then it was also in early October that I ended up in hospital because the help just arrived too late, so it spiralled sort of way out of control. People are quite unaware still of where to get help, and that help for mental health issues still isn't quite as available as help for physical health issues. And at the point when I really needed that help, it was there, but it wasn't there sort of in time, so that meant that I had to then spend quite a few weeks in hospital recovering from my OCD as best as I could, whereas if I'd had that help a few months beforehand, when I'd said that I initially wanted help, it wouldn't have got to the sort of point that made me end up having to go into hospital. I also have cerebral palsy, which I've had since I was born. It's a condition I was born with due to being sort of born prematurely. And there's just so obviously firsthand I have experience of being treated for both mental health issues and physical health issues, and things like the time that you have to actually wait to see someone for a physical health issue is a lot shorter than the time that you have to wait for a mental health issue, and the difference is sort of unacceptable. I mean, it's not really something that you could say, oh well, that's fine. It's you maybe have to wait a month maximum for a physical health issue, and anything from a few months to a few years for a mental health issue. My blog that I write is called Daydreams of Peace, and it's about basically charting my sort of story through OCD. But the reason why I tell that story is hopefully to illustrate to people what OCD is about, and to sort of help people gain a bit more understanding about it, and also if people are out there struggling with OCD or any related sort of mental health issues, for them to realise that there are people out there who are also going through the same thing and that they're not alone, because that's what I felt originally. I felt like there was no one out there who suffered with the same thing, and I was the only person who had the thoughts that I had or did the things that I did. And then I realised that it's not the case, so I just wanted to contribute to that as well, and hopefully get rid of some of the stigma that surrounds mental health issues. I think the main thing for me about being able to talk to someone wasn't so much about getting their advice, although they were really, really good at giving advice. It was more just so that I could listen to what I was saying and realise that's what I'd been thinking, but actually just sound it out to myself and sort of get my thoughts in order and what I thought and what I felt. Whereas it might have all been a bit muddled and confused in my head, and I didn't really know what was going on, and that was what was scaring me. Being able to actually talk to someone and have someone there as a sort of sounding board really was really helpful for me to get my sort of thoughts in order. But then also from the point of view that because they taught the subject and they taught about OCD, I felt as though they were more able to offer advice because they knew a little bit more about it, whereas at that point I didn't feel able to talk to my parents or any of my family about it, even though my parents obviously knew it was going on because I couldn't disguise it from them at home. Being able to talk to them and someone who was like removed from the situation and wasn't so emotionally involved was really helpful. So I think what I'd say is it doesn't matter who you talk to, but as long as you find someone who you feel comfortable talking to, that's the main thing really. For like about 18 months to 2 years, I literally had no quality of life. Like my whole life was taken up with doing various rituals and routines throughout the day, and I would say I at least lost about 10 hours of my day every day through all these OCD rituals and things. And so obviously it's then really not hurtful, but just to then see people making a mockery out of it, or any mental health issues, to see other people not taking it seriously, and when you know how much you've been through and how much it like ruined your life for so long, it's obviously not the best thing. So I just want to take this opportunity to tell people that you don't need to be afraid to speak out about mental health issues, and the more that people do that, the less that people are going to sort of make a mockery of it, because people realise that it's highly prevalent and that it's like an issue that needs to be taken seriously, and also that physical illnesses are no different to mental illnesses. It's just because you can't see them doesn't mean that they're not there. And if like you can be the person who finds someone to talk to about it, that's what I did. And now I mean, I'm still in recovery, but now I'm hopefully contributing a little bit towards people understanding mental health issues, like through this and also through the blog that I write. And so I've taken that first step, and it would just be really good if through this, like, one more person would take that step as well. I had no quality of life. Like, I always felt like I didn't exist to do anything else other than complete all these rituals to sort of get me through the day. I didn't feel like I was really sort of, I know it's a cliche, but I didn't really feel like I was sort of living my life. I felt like I was just existing to make sure that I could get through the day by doing these rituals and things. Whereas now, I'm still having treatment, but I'm coming to the end of that now. And my life is so much better. I have so much more of my day to do things that I enjoy. Like, I would say probably only takes up about an hour and a half maximum of my day, depending on how I'm feeling. So if you look at that just literally by the number of hours that it takes up, you can already see that it's so much of an improvement. But also I had massive issues at one time surrounding contamination, which I think is a stereotypical sort of perception of what OCD is. So that's another thing that I wanted to mention, is that it's so much more than that. Like, people have so many more different compulsions and obsessions, other than, it's not just about, you know, washing your hands like a few too many times during the day. It's so much more than that. So I did have the contamination side of things, and that was awful, and that was mainly what I had going on when I was in hospital. And that was really, really bad. Like, my mum used to buy me like a really large bottle of hand sanitizer, and I would use about 3/4 of it in a day. So obviously that was really bad. And now because I've spoken to someone and I've got treatment, I don't have any of those issues anymore. And I used to have more recently issues surrounding numbers that I had an aversion to. So numbers that I thought might be lucky and numbers that weren't so lucky, and that then led on to me having issues around time and watches and clocks. So I couldn't look at any clocks. I couldn't know what time it was, because if I was moving at a particular time, then I would have to compensate for that for hours afterwards, by just sitting completely still for anything up to 4 hours to compensate for the time that I'd had to move at times that I didn't think were acceptable, if that makes sense. But now, it was my birthday recently, and Mum and Dad bought me a watch for my birthday, so I've got that on now and I wear it all the time, and obviously I use it at the time, but mainly I just love being able to look down and seeing that I've got a watch on my wrist, and like using that as a sort of a symbol really of how far I've come, and using that like as motivation to get better, and hopefully my quality of life will be even better from now on.